Welcome back to my journey of maintaining with Slimming World. This is the 10th week of my being at Target. And as I said last week, my plan this week was to gain a little weight, which is more than unusual for me, but there you go. I had fallen £0.5 under my target band and needed to gain at least £0.5 this week to get back into Target to be a free member. This week I decided to stick to plan, taking 1 A choice, 2 B choices and 15 sins each day, which is what I did. I made an effort to do that, not deviate from that. I've been to class this morning, or group as we call it this morning, and gained £3. Quite a shock. I'm not going to say undeserved because I think I didn't make the wisest of choices, but I'll explain that in a moment. So yes, 1A, 2 Bs, 15 sins, which is very much on plan, very much the programme. Why didn't that work for me in gaining £1 and why did I gain 3? Well, just as an observation and taking it that I am a work in progress, I feel I am a work in progress, I'm changing things weekly to find a balance that works for me as an individual. And this week, to use my sins, I made a decision or a choice to eat chocolate in the form of Crunchies, which is probably my favourite, or one of my favourite chocolate bars. And to make up my sins, I had the Skittles, the little Skittle sweets. I think they're confused. Apparently they're different colours to the flavour that you'll taste, but being blind, that didn't have much of an impact on me. But anyway, that's what I did. So I had 15 sins daily. Now, I wasn't thinking about this at the start of the week, but I had realised by the end of the week I didn't feel good. My mood was off. My body was sluggish. My legs ached actually, and I didn't know what was causing that. But I am now wondering, was it sugar? I was taking in a lot of sugar and I don't usually choose sugar. I think I possibly have more of a savoury tooth than a sweet tooth as a rule of thumb. But eating a chocolate bar every day and these Skittle sweets was so far away from what I usually eat that I actually think it did have an effect, not only on my mood, but, well, no, I suppose it was mainly my mood. I was off by the end of the week. I was moody. I was irritable. And I'm putting that down to sugar. Now, last week I had talked with my consultant about how I was going to work through this week, made the decision to do what I did. When I was at class this morning and spoke with my consultant during image therapy, I'd said to her I'd opted for 15 sins rather than sticking with my usual sort of 7 to 10 sins and introducing an extra A choice. Because if I'd introduced an extra A, that would have been tantamount to adding 6 sins to my daily count. I think most people would understand that an A and a B choice is usually around the six sin mark. So instead of choosing to add the A and the 6 sins, I chose to add sins and take it up to the maximum 15. Because I used those sins on basically adding sugar to my diet, I think, well, my consultant recommends dropping the sins back again to my usual lower number and adding an A choice. Because the A choice will be calcium based, either a milk product or a cheese product, it won't have the sugar content. So will that work for me? Big question mark. Hopefully so. My plan for this week then is 2 A choices, 2 B choices and 7 sins. Now, if in my head, and I'm all about figures, believe me, Figures and numbers, I love them. If in my head I think that that A choice is in effect 6 sins, add it to my 7 sin count for the day, that's holding me around 13 sins a day. So it would be 1A, 2Bs, 13 sins. Or, in brackets, the same thing really, 2As, 2Bs, 7 sins, close brackets. Can you visualise that? Right, so that's where we're going this week. We're going to drop that sugar level down. The royal we actually. I am going to drop that sugar level down by changing out some of those sins for an extra A choice. I am going to keep up with the walking. This week my mileage has been less. I think 36.5 miles I've walked this week. So that's a drop from my usual 42 plus. Yeah, there's my plan for the week. I'm comfortable with my gain because it still actually has me half a pound below my target weight of 10.7. No, I've got that wrong. It still has me half a pound below my target weight of 10.10. I actually weighed in this morning at 10.9.5, which is fine. Can't say it feels as comfortable as being down nearer to 10.7, but that's my head and the way my mind plays with things, and I think a lot of you would understand that. A lot of the things that we do with regard to weight gain and weight loss are all in our heads. So there you go. What did I bring away from group today? A lot of wisdom as usual, a lot of laughter. It sets me up for the weekend. A couple of things that people brought to group which really touched me today. We were talking about eating out and how often, even if you were just choosing to have breakfast out, you could opt for, grilled bacon, scrambled egg, grilled tomatoes, mushrooms, whatever, and actually believe you're having an on-plan breakfast, when in effect there could be milk and butter in the scrambled egg, there could be fat on the bacon, which, okay, if you're going to be a really good girl, you'll cut it off, but do we really truly always? I probably wouldn't, if I'm honest. There could be fat involved with the tomatoes, there could be fat involved with the mushrooms, and before we know it, we can have taken in 5 or 6 hidden sins, but we come away thinking we've done good. That was good. That made me stop and think this morning. I like to eat out, but I need to be aware sometimes of just what I'm eating. Naomi spoke, that's my consultant, spoke this morning about changes to sin values. I don't know if all consultants do this. I know that they do have a list of changes. Now, one of the things that came up this morning was this, Asda's chickpea dal. I like it. It's really nice. Now, up until, I believe, this week, this can was free. Now it's 2 sins. I could have, if I'd missed group this morning, and this is another good reason for staying to group for me. If I had missed group this morning, I'd still be eating this chickpea dal and believing it to be free. And it's not. How many other things does this happen to? How many things am I in the habit of eating as a routine thing that I would never dream of checking, have they changed? And I think this morning, I was paying attention, but my memory's not brilliant. I think this morning there were 4 or 5 different things that my consultant highlighted which had actually changed sin value. I remember one of them was liver and onions with mashed potatoes, might have been Morrison's, which has gone right up now to 10 sins. So if we took one of those on board and didn't realise the change, that could just blow your week out of the water. Interesting stuff. So yeah, be on the ball. Now, what else was I going to say today? You see, my mind's gone. I think that was it. I think for me that was it. So my plan for next week is to take 7 sins, 2 A's, 2 B's, to walk my 5 to 7 miles a day, and to enjoy being on plan. And I do enjoy being on plan. I cannot say that I want to deviate from plan. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I had chocolate off plan. One of my friends questioned me on that. She said, "What on earth did you mean? Chocolate's on plan." Yeah, chocolate's on plan if you have 15 sins worth. It's not on plan if you have 45 sins worth, is it? And that's the difference. That's what I mean when I say I have something on plan or have something off plan. I could talk about having bread on plan. You know, I could use a slice or two small slices for a B choice. I could even add some extra bread into my diet that day and sin it. But if I choose to eat half a loaf the way I used to do, then I'm off plan. It's bread, but it's off plan. And that's what I mean when I say that. So if you hear me say that in the future, I had chocolate off plan, I mean I had excessive amounts of something. Right, okay. So next week, 7 sins, 2 A's, 2 B's, and plenty of free food. Yeah, at least a third speed food, and hold myself accountable for another week. A work in progress. And it's interesting. It's actually becoming a bit of an experiment in my life. You know, where can I go with this and not get fat again? Because I am afraid in my head, seriously, of getting fat again. I know that if I let myself go, I could gain 2 stone in a month. I know that because I've done that. A few years ago, probably 6 years ago, I followed a liquid diet. It wasn't Cambridge. I've never done Cambridge and have no opinions on Cambridge. But what I did was a liquid diet through my GP via a local pharmacy where I paid, I don't know, somewhere around £45 a week, I think, to be given so many drinks, shakes, whatever. And I think they did bars as well, but I wasn't interested in those. I did this for 7.5 months, religiously. I was never hungry, my body went into ketosis, my breath stank like a dead dog, I looked like a half-dead person, I lost 8.5 stone, I think it was 8.5 stone in that time. But by gum, as they say in Yorkshire, it only took me 6 stone to put it back at 6 stone. It only took me 6 months to put it all back on again. So for me today, Slimming World is the only way. I've tried everything else. Some of it worked for a temporary period, some of it didn't. But this is the only thing that I think will work for me for life. I mentioned last week about my cholesterol count because my blood pressure's down. I want to check my cholesterol. I actually have made an appointment with my GP for next Wednesday. So maybe not next week, but hopefully the week after, I will be able to give you some feedback with regard to my cholesterol. And for me, that's important. There is a massive history of heart disease in my family. I need to have my cholesterol as low as possible. I stopped smoking for health reasons after 40 years on the fags. If I can do that, and I can lose 11.5 stone, get my blood pressure down, hopefully my cholesterol down, then there is a chance for a healthier future. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you'll return, and I'll be back.